probably the worst moment in my career as a psychiatrist. His name was Bob, a made-up name, of course. He was 38 years old. He told his wife that he wanted to hang himself. His wife, of course, did not let him out of her sight, was able to convince him to come to the emergency room, and from there he was admitted to my psychiatric ward. When I met Bob, he told me that life was over. He was in too much pain, too much suffering. Life was totally insufferable. Doctor, I want to commit suicide. Suicide per year affects 700,000 people worldwide, and in the United States, 50,000 people per year. And in the United States, the numbers are going up. In looking at suicide, we psychiatrists look at what I would call the 5 Ds, 5 categories, all starting with a D. Number 1 is depression. Yes, that makes sense. People who commit suicide are deeply depressed. Usually the biological, very deep, dark, palpable depression that's there in the brain, in the frontal lobe or in the amygdala. People can get more impulsive. People are deeply depressed. Also can happen when they have a lot of stress, increasing cortisol levels. It can be a genetic predisposition. If there's members of the family that have committed suicide, then it's more likely that somebody else could do the act. Early trauma, which then affects one's neurons and makes somebody ultimately less resilient. Next, the next D is disease. People are in the thick of a disease with terrible pain, sometimes with a poor prognosis, and so they simply want to give up. The third D is disability. Somebody is to the point where they really cannot function anymore, and so life is hopeless. I'm of no use. I'm a burden on society. Just let me go. The fourth D, disconnectedness, to not be connected. And this is where spirituality comes into play, because people who are more connected in a spiritual way, connected to their inner self, usually have much more of a strength and connected to a community where they can get a lot of support. The fifth D is deadly arms, firearms. We know that people who have firearms in their possession, they are more likely to complete suicide than those who do not. The tragedy is that most people who I've met, and I've met many who come into the psychiatric hospital with wanting to die, with wanting to commit suicide, with full intention and a plan to commit suicide. Once they come in and they get treatment and we talk and they see that somebody cares about themselves, myself and the nurses and the entire staff, and we try to get family involved and maybe even community members involved. So people are ever so happy, if I can use the word, that they did not go forward with it. There's the famous story of the fellow who actually jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. And midway in flight, he totally regretted what he was doing. He said, I want to live. And miraculously, he did live. It hardly ever happens when people jump off the Golden Gate Bridge, but he did. And he went on to be a motivational speaker, to talk to people about how to handle things when they are feeling suicidal. Now, it's important for us, not only mental health professionals, but all of us, to be aware, keep our eyes open when somebody is moving in the direction of wanting to take their life. What can you see? These people can become more socially withdrawn, isolative. They can start using substances more so than before. They may give their possessions away. They start talking about that they're just a burden on their family, on society. And then sometimes there's a certain calmness that will appear because they've made peace with the fact that they're going to be taking their life. And so they have a sense of calm. These are all telltale signs to look for. Next is what to do when you sense that somebody is moving in that direction. Well, a lot of people are afraid to reach out and talk to them, but that's exactly what you should do. A lot of people are afraid to say, are you feeling like you don't want to live anymore? They feel like if they bring up the topic, that may encourage the person to want to do that. But exactly the opposite is the case. Reach out, ask them, are you feeling like you don't want to live anymore? If they say yes, are you feeling that you might be suicidal? And then don't try to fix them. Be with them. Listen, the ultimate of empathy. Check in with them regularly. Show them that you care. You can also give them the number for the suicide hotline. Here in America, the number is 988. Everybody is yearning for connection. So reach out to others. Allow themselves to be vulnerable without any judgment whatsoever. Simply be there and be with them. It'll make a gigantic difference. And so it was with Bob that I did spend a lot of time with him. We had a lot of good talks. He seemed like he was getting better. We talked about his strengths, talked about what he could do going into the future, met together with his wife. We did start him on antidepressant medication. He said it was sitting well with him. I kept him in the hospital for quite a while, even though I was under pressure from the hospital administration because the insurance company wasn't paying for his stay anymore. And he certainly seemed like he was moving in the right direction. 4 days after discharge, his wife came to the hospital to pick up some belongings that had been left behind when she returned home. Bob had hanged himself. I thought, what had I done wrong? What more could I have done? The sages say that from a spiritual perspective, that suicide is never an option. That our body is a gift from God, and therefore we do not have the right to choose to take our body. I actually shared these spiritual thoughts with Bob, and he seemed to understand. It seemed to resonate with him. But obviously, we didn't do enough. Sometimes you can only do so much. I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen the sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times when I could not find a friend, but I always thought that I'd see you again.